is a Mets here. For all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home Make it happen. There's no stopping us now. We're gonna do it again. It's not a question of how. It's just a matter. It's just a matter. It's just a matter of
Hello again, everybody. Joe Piscopo, Shea Stadium. The big story. Mets 86. Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
Baby, what's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets here, Rob. As you might have heard, if you were, like sleeping, like most normal people, unlike myself, unfortunately, I was up working, which, probably was a good thing at this point. But my phone was blowing up at work. I'm thinking, all right, we heard the news about Carlos Correa, about the situation with the Giants and the press conference and the physical or the lack thereof, or we didn't know the true story. And the most important thing was we kind of like was joking around yesterday during the video that I did. I was serious about it, but it didn't feel realistic that the Giants were really going to let this thing blow up in their faces. And you know what? Going to work this morning, I was at work at midnight, so I had time to get in the groove of working, not really thinking of much. And then around 2:30 or so, my phone is blowing up. I'm with a big group Mets chat, about 100 people or so. Joe is in it, and a couple other people that he got involved in it as well. And it was just blowing up. And I was thinking, all right, we were hearing about the Mets with Liam Hendricks and that trade. We were thinking about a DH bat, Conforto at the time was Drury, and Trey Mancini, stuff like that. So, anytime that when there's news happening or a player the Mets are trying to get and he signs or gets traded, usually the group chat blows up. So I didn't think nothing of it. I hear it on my phone going crazy and everything like that. So I'm not really looking at it. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, God damn, this is going crazy. Like it was every 2 seconds, it was just vibrating all over the place. I'm like, all right, what the hell's going on? So I look. Now, I had to stop the forklift because I probably would have ran into a wall. So I look at my phone and I'm like, Mets signed Correa. I'm like, hold on. How can this happen so fast? And you know what? It comes down to the fact that once again, Steve Cohen gets involved in the situation, and he basically gets in the room well, technically not in the room. He was in Hawaii at the time, but gets in the room and says, you know what? Giants are having problems. And the information that we heard about Carlos Correa and the Giants, we'll get into that in a second because that's actually really important. He gets it done within hours. According to John Heyman, it was about 4 hours they were negotiating from last night until the news came out with John Heyman breaking it. And you know what? Let's give it up for John Heyman because John Heyman got crushed with the Aaron Judge situation, or excuse me, Arson Judge situation, a tweet. And you know what? He took a big hit, but you know what? He got the exclusive a few days ago with Steve Cohen in the interview, talking about the money and everything like that. And now he was able to break this story. And don't think for a second that Steve Cohen didn't help this guy getting that information. I guarantee you he really felt bad for John Heyman. And John Heyman was the guy that spoke to him with the post, with all the interview questions and everything like that. And you know what? Good for John Heyman because, you know, he's been around a long time. And, you know, we all make mistakes, even big mistakes, even if we don't want to admit it. He just made a big mistake, and it happens to involve yet the San Francisco Giants again. And you know what, guys? I looked at my phone. Carlos Correa signs 12 years. I'm like, whoa, how did this materialize so quickly? I mean, the deal is basically like the numbers, the years, the money. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So I'm texting Joe, that everybody knows, you know, end the lockout, Joe. And I know he's sleeping because he usually would text me in a heartbeat. And I'm texting him. And I'm like, yo, wake up, get up, get up. And guess what? He didn't get up, but that's okay because most people were sleeping. According to the poll, most of you were sleeping. And you know what? I was pumped. And there's a few Met fans in my job, more Yankee fans than Met fans for sure. And all I know is that we all must have found out the news around the same time because we ran around trying to find each other in the warehouse, and we found each other, and we looked like school kids jumping around. We're like, yeah, high-fiving each other, going crazy. Like, yeah, we got our bat and going crazy. And, you know, of course, the Yankee fans are in the corner, you know, actually, you know, congratulating themselves, you know, shaking their hands and, you know, getting the captaincy and, you know, the press conference that nobody cared about this morning in Aaron Judge, right? Well, you know what? Absolutely fun and exciting to have this situation. Again, we don't know what happened. And, you know, there is going to probably be some type of stupid investigation with Major League Baseball because, I mean, the Giants did come out and say that there was, or the Giants with Boris saying that the doctors cleared Carlos Correa. And this is the important part to understand. The doctors cleared Carlos Correa. All the doctors that are involved with, I guess, I'm assuming it's the team doctors and, of course, Major League Baseball, I'm assuming, has some type of role in that with doctors as well. The doctors cleared Carlos Correa, but the Giants executives, the top-level execs, did not like something. I don't know what it was, but I'm sorry. If the Minnesota Twins can sign Carlos Correa, if the Yankees can re-sign Aaron Judge with all the injury history he has, and the Mets with Brandon Nimmo, and the Mets with Max Scherzer, and the Mets with Justin Verlander, guess what? Things get done. That's just it. And these things usually don't happen. You know, the Mets were involved in 2015 with Carlos Gomez. That was a trade, so that was a little bit different in-season medicals. You don't really have a long physical when players get traded. It's usually medicals get sent from team to team, and you usually have, you know, a quick little physical just to make sure everything's in order, and then the trade happens. And guess what? It is what it is. And listen, you have to feel for Giant fans. You know, there was a couple of Giant fans that subscribed to my channel that commented on one of the videos. They were pissed off, but they were congratulating me and you know, the Met fans and everything like that. But you have to feel bad because that really sucks. I mean, you thought you had Aaron Judge in the bag, and then Aaron Judge was like, no, I'm just going to use that offer you gave us and, you know, make sure the Yankees give it to me. and judge got him right out of under there, ripped the rug right out of their feet. And then this whole thing where everybody just assumed that Correa was going to be a Giant. You know, if you're in New York, nobody really cares about the press conference in San Francisco for Correa, and nobody really knew what was happening until it wasn't happening. And it's crazy to me. And you know what? I really feel bad. Listen, they got 3 championships over the last, 10, 15 years. That's fine. All right. That's not an issue. All right. They got their championships. They're a storied franchise, iconic franchise. We all know the history, right? They're always going to be related to Mets history since we have one of their colors because they were a New York team at one point, right? Orange and blue, Dodger blue, Giants orange, blah, 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 mixed together, Mets colors. All right. So people are like, and Matt Ehol, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter. He puts something out about the parity in sports and blah, 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 and the money spending. Let me ask you guys something, because this goes for, and Jonathan, if you're still here, this goes for the Phillies, this goes for the Yankees, this goes for the Dodgers over the last couple of years, right? And let's bring the Rangers into this too. The Rangers spent over $500 million last year. Nobody better than I, right? You don't hear reporters saying the parity, right? Before today, before the Mets signed Correa, the New York Yankees had the most money involved in free agency at that point yesterday. They were a little bit over $500 million. The Mets were 4th, right? The Phillies were up there, and the Yankees were number 1 until they weren't, until the Mets signed them. And then it ballooned to over over $800 million in spending. The Yankees were number 1 in signing free agents. And yes, it was only 2, but they spent over $500 million. But nobody cared about that. You know what? When Schwarber and Castellanos was signed, and Harper was signed, and Wheeler was signed, where was everybody talking about the big bad Phillies and the parity in sports? And to go back time and time again with the Yankees, buying this guy, getting this guy, signing that guy. Where was the parity? Nobody cared. All of a sudden, now you're getting Matt Ehol, who I went after him on Twitter because I don't like idiots like that are going to talk about parity when there's a luxury tax specifically put in place that if you go over the luxury tax, this is why the Yankees haven't gone on the luxury tax the last couple of years, because they were set. Hal said, why should we be giving money to the Tampa Bay Rays and the low budget teams that are actually beating us? Well, I don't feel bad for the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Philly fans shouldn't. The Yankees fans shouldn't. The Mets fans shouldn't. And any other team, the Dodgers, nobody should give a damn about them small market teams that get $50 to $100 million in luxury tax because it's shared throughout every team that is not over the luxury tax. So those teams get as much money as a team that didn't go over the luxury tax, but is still trying to contend. The Pittsburgh Pirates owner continues to pocket that luxury tax money and doesn't put it in their team. Nobody should feel sorry for them. And that's what I told Matt Ehol. And that's ridiculous. Now, do I like what Correa did? No. But it's not like the Giants didn't have cold feet either. All right. Their executives had a problem with whatever medical it was, even though a couple of doctors that they all agreed that he was cleared. So the Giants executives are all of a sudden, med students and doctors all of a sudden with MDs before their name, and you know what? This is on the Giants. This is not on Correa. This is not on Cohen and the Mets. Because Cohen jumped on the opportunity and he got Scott Boras on speed dial does not mean that anybody is at fault except for the Giants. Yes, Christian, but it goes to other teams, right? You pay the tax. Revenue sharing does. That money goes around the league. And that's the problem. This is the whole reason why they put that into place, to stop. They think parity was going to happen. Yet there's going to be over $2 billion in money spent on free agency. That's insane. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that teams should be spending $380, $400 plus million. That's not, if that happens, it happens. And that's something that is shocking. I'm not going to lie. It's crazy. It really doesn't matter. But again, nobody was talking about when other teams are spending money, right? In 2008, when the Yankees didn't make the playoffs, they signed 3 players, Teixeira, Burnett, and Sabathia, right? They spent, at that time, was an astronomical amount of money, right? They basically bought that 2009 championship, right? But nobody said nothing, right? Everybody's like, oh, look, the big bad Yankees, the evil empire. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying. So this stupid lockout that we had last offseason, because of the fact that owners were mad about money being spent and players getting too much money and veteran players getting more money, and look what happened. The team spending it anyway. And you know what? The hell with every small poverty franchise. Because as Met fans, you can damn sure know that we effing deserve this. We had to deal with Madoff and the freaking Wilpons. All right? I'm 35 years old. I was born in 1987. Okay? I did not see the 1986 World Championship. I'm not my father who saw 86 World Championship in his teenage years. He was 8 years old when they won in 1969. All right? I seen 2 World Series in my lifetime, and we lost to the Yankees and lost to the Royals. All right? And then every other year besides that, it was a complete disaster besides 2006, even though it ended in disaster. All right? Aaron Hallman giving up a home run to Yadier Molina in the NLCS. Right? Andy Chavez makes the catch, the happiest Met fan in the world, and we still lose. All right? We deserve this, and don't feel sorry for that. There is no damn way that I'm going to apologize to an idiot that thinks he knows everything because he writes for a paper where he says there's no parity in baseball. There is parity in baseball. The problem is there is not one owner that's not a billionaire. Guess what? Too bad. Listen, we talked about this for years as Met fans. When the Mets had Brody Van Wagenen, our big acquisition was Jed Lowry. You remember that stupid Christmas thing video they put out a couple of years ago in a tweet? And Jed Lowry? What a difference. And I don't care what anybody says. Now, it can absolutely blow up in our faces. Correa could be not the player he was. Scherzer and Verlander's arm can fall off. Everything can go to a disaster. But there's one thing Met fans and any fan base can't get mad at. When your owner tries and spends the money, yes, you're going to be frustrated if you don't win the championship. But you can't say they didn't try. That goes for the Phillies. That goes for the Yankees, the Dodgers, anybody. No Phillies fan is going to get mad after the money they spent over the last couple of years, bringing in Real Muto in a trade, then re-signing him, bringing in Harper, and then Turner, and then Real Muto, and then Castellanos, and then Wheeler. They brought those guys in, right? If you don't win a championship, it sucks. But you cannot kill a team for doing everything they can. Again, the Phillies and the Mets fans are going to stand there and say, all right, we spent the money. We gave the Phillies and the Mets everything. We gave these players everything they needed. The lineup, the bullpen, the pitch, the starting pitch, and everything. It doesn't come down to the players on paper, right? Because at the end of the day, weren't the Dodgers supposedly the best team on paper? Weren't the Braves the second best team on paper? Well, guess what? Both of those teams struggled in the playoffs. You know, the Mets didn't win a division, but that was their own damn fault. But the Mets weren't considered the best team on paper. The Phillies weren't considered the best team on paper. It comes down to the players on the field. When it comes in between the lines, do you pitch well and do you play well? It doesn't matter who you put on the field. You can put any combination of players together. You still have to play the game. And it doesn't matter how many good players you got, how much money you spent. It comes down to the players on the field. And no matter what the odds say, and I know what the odds say because right when the Correa thing happened with the Mets, I went on FanDuel. I said, whoa, the odds didn't change with the Mets yet. Plus 900 to win the World Series. Well, I got to put a hundy on that. You got to come on. That's some good odds right there. For a team that won 101 games last year and basically brought back the same lineup at the moment, and I think the pitching is a little bit more solid and deeper. Well, guess what? I'm putting in there. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Let's get it done. So plus 900, and then Joe told me earlier about an hour ago that now it's plus 650. And now they're number one. Mindy, how you doing? How are you doing? Mindy from the 7 line. I love her. She's great. No, we can't feel bad, Mindy. We cannot feel bad. That's the most important thing, everyone. And it does not matter. Drew, it's not. It's not. Because I'm telling you right now, I can guarantee you this. And a lot of you fans, and you know what? Jonathan's a Phillies fan, so he might feel the same way. I think he will. If the New York Yankees did what the Mets did, spending over $800 million on free agents in total so far, everybody would be like, the evil empire is back. Hal is now his father. That's what they would say. But because a lot of the owners don't like Steve Cohen, and you know who doesn't like Steve Cohen is the small market teams. You know who actually likes Steve Cohen? Yankees owners, Dodgers owners, Phillies owners. They want this. You know why? Because what this does, it makes them want to do more as well. And listen, it's not like the Phillies weren't spending money. They've been spending money before Cohen. We all forget about that too. When they had the Ryan Howard days and all of that, they were spending money as well. So it really doesn't matter. And it really doesn't matter to me. And for anybody that wants to say, oh, do you think it's bad for the league? It's not. How is a big market team spending money and doing what they're supposed to do? Remember, this Mets team is supposed to be doing this since the day at least the last 10 years that they got into Major League Baseball when it became a franchise, right? Every other year, they should be doing this. You're the biggest market in the world, in the country, and you're not spending money the way you should be. And Cohen said it in that interview. And I want you guys to read the interview, the questions and the answers in the post. It was amazing. What he said. He says, nowadays, yes, it's not all about spending money that can win you a championship. But if you spend a lot of money and you spent it wisely, you can win a World Series. Again, nothing's set in stone. But I'm going to tell you right now, do you think me and Jonathan, who both hate each other's teams, do you think that we care if we win a World Series and you hear teams, oh, well, you bought a championship? You think we give a damn? I'm gonna throw that shirt right in your face. But Drew, listen, what about the Kansas City Royals, right? Why did they win the World Series, right? Again, if that's the case, then there should be a salary cap. But that's still, what does that tell you? That a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, that their owner doesn't spend money. It's not because he doesn't have it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when the Pirates made that playoff wild cards game, what was it, about 6 years ago or so, right? Them fans were rejuvenated. Pittsburgh got great fans. Yet, their owner doesn't want to spend on their team. Let every free agent go by the wayside. Brian Reynolds might be out of there very soon, right? McCutchen was gone. All these players that if they would have stuck on that team, who knows how good the Pirates would have been. They didn't want to pay him. So let's not act like the owner for the Pirates is broke, because he's not. He can spend $200 million or even $150 million and be competitive in a weak NL Central. And listen, I'm not going to feel sorry, because I dealt with Madoff. I dealt with the Wilpons, who says that, oh, we're going to spend money, and then in the off season we're twiggling our thumbs, and then we get the third tier free agents, the Michael Walkers of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. It's a joke. Well, Steven, it was a good move, but it tends to be the fact that there is times. Listen, the Pittsburgh Pirates could have signed Aaron Judge and still have a lower payroll than probably 2/3 of the league. And guess what? They could have still done more and probably still have under $150 million payroll. It's a joke. Don't let these owners and don't let these idiot reporters, especially Matt Ehold, who I respect as a reporter. And then when he said that, he blew me up because it's stupid. At the end of the day, if your team doesn't spend, you're going to be mad because at the end of the day, when I buy a ticket, when I buy food, when I pay for parking, right? And it costs me $200 to just not even just get into the stadium with parking and ticket prices. Like for opening day this year for the Mets game, right? I'm going with the 7-Line Army in Miami on March 30th when opening day is in Miami, right? $70 to sit right behind the dugout with the 7-Line Army, the Mets dugout in Miami. If I buy that in Citi Field, it's going to cost me probably $500, right? If I get an upper deck seat for opening day at Citi Field, it's going to run me about $115 to $120, not including parking, right? That's not, I didn't even sit down in my seat yet. It's $125. And then if I buy food, merchandise, soda, I'm racking $200, maybe $250 just for that one game. If I'm going to spend money, that's why Mets fans didn't show up. That's why it took a long time for the Mets fans to show up. And when people talked about the playoffs, the seats weren't filled. Well, listen, there might not be no excuse, but when you've been broken down as a fan base, and the Mets fan has been broken down, all right? When you're in a big market team, a big market area, and your team doesn't spend the way they should, and you see the team, now it's even worse that the Yankees are in the same town, right? Philadelphia doesn't have to worry about another baseball team. They do what they do, right? The White Sox still, have to follow that Chicago Cubs situation, right? The same thing with the California teams, the Giants and the Dodgers, the Padres now in the Dodgers, right? You have to do that. And that's the issue. And that's my biggest, that's the biggest thing, is that we continued to see the back pages of the Yankees. Oh, they got Cole. Oh, look at that. They just signed this guy. They just signed that guy, right? Can anybody remember who the Mets signed in 2009 or 2008 going into 2009 offseason? Right? Nobody can remember that if you're a Mets fan. If you're a big Mets fan, you're gonna know because you're sickened by it. But the Yankees signed 2 pitchers and a first baseman, and they won them the World Series that next year. Right? That's what we have to deal with. And Philly fans won't understand that because they don't understand the whole fact that you don't have to worry about another team spending more or being on the back pages. It's always about Philadelphia. Yeah, if the Phillies are in the offseason, yeah, you're going to definitely talk. You're going to talk about the Eagles right now being in first place and all that stuff. But you're only talking about teams that Philly fans root for. Right? And Robert Soro, yes, we understand that. But your own team, Carlos Correa can play third base. He did it in the World Baseball Classic with Lindor as shortstop. Oh, and by the way, did you forget you had Turner at second base as a shortstop when you still had Seager, right? Turner's not a second baseman, right? But the Dodgers did that. But you see the problem with that? This is when other teams of other fans who, let's be honest, there was Dodger fans talking about wanting Correa. All of a sudden, they didn't want Correa. That, the fans won't like it because he's a cheater. Okay, so you don't want one of the top shortstops in the game when the Dodgers basically done nothing this year? And I know what the Dodgers are doing. They're lowering their payroll because they're going to make a big run at Ohtani. It's obvious, if Ohtani does want to stay in LA, well, guess what? The Dodgers are right there. And that's why the Dodgers haven't been spending crazy big. And that's understandable. I know it's obvious what the Dodgers are trying to do here. But let's be honest. At the end of the day, A-Rod moved over for Derek Jeter, right? We all knew A-Rod was a better shortstop than Derek Jeter defensively. Yes, he was. If you want to check, look at statistics. I know a lot of people are going to throw analytics at me. Look at the analytics, right? A-Rod was the better shortstop. He has a better arm. He had better range. Yes, A-Rod developed into a better third baseman because he was a humongous guy. But at the end of the day, it comes down to you will figure it out, okay? I don't care. I always think, I'm not saying, sign a first baseman and put it in center field. That's crazy. But when you got athletic guys, like I know Trey Turner, if the Phillies really wanted him and Turner wanted the Phillies and the Phillies already had an established shortstop that was really good and you're not moving him, he would go to second base because he's athletic enough and good enough to do that. Correa is the same way. Correa is one of the better shortstops in the game. Look at his statistics. He's probably, I wouldn't say necessarily better than Lindor, but he's definitely on par, if not better. So that's the most. No, Jonathan, he's playing third base. That's almost a guarantee. And we haven't even talked about this yet, but there's no doubt that Correa is going to play third base. And let's be honest, I'd rather have Correa at third base because it does keep him a little bit more healthier. Throwing him at second base, he's got to turn double plays. You got guys sliding at his feet. Keep him at third base. You probably keep him healthier. And the same thing with, I know this wasn't the Yankees' reasoning for putting A-Rod at third base, but it did keep A-Rod more healthy at third base than at shortstop. So that's a pretty good thing when it comes down to it. I think it's only going to help Correa and even Lindor for that matter. And listen, there's no doubt that Correa is one of the better ball players in the league. And let's be honest, guys. Carlos Correa, and people talk about, he's never had 100 RBIs in his career. He doesn't hit a ton of home runs. Yes, but in his career, he mostly batted leadoff and second. And that's the thing that nobody talks about. You look at the stats and you're like, he's not a 100 RBI guy. Well, he's one of the best clutch hitters in postseason baseball over the last 10 years. He's batting well over 300 in the playoffs and was an extremely good player. But he mostly batted leadoff or batting second. He batted second with the Twins last year, yet he had 60-plus RBIs as a two-hitter, and I believe he had close to 20 home runs or a little more than that. So the most important thing here is the fact that Correa is probably not going to bat leadoff or second because of Marte and Nimmo, right? He's probably going to bat behind Pete Alonso, and all that does is extend the lineup even more. You got the batting champion batting sixth, all right? And then 7, 8, and 9, you can go down the list, do what you got to do. Is Escobar going to be a DH now, considering that he was the third baseman, now he's not? You're going to DH Escobar? He's a switch hitter? Possibility. Is Beatty going to be a left fielder now because he played left field in the minors? Could Beatty go to left field and platoon with Canna? Beatty's a lefty, Canna's a righty. Mets have options now. This makes the team not just better 1 through 9. It makes them better on the bench as well. Yet the Mets have 42 men on the roster right now, so they're going to have to make a trade or two to get rid of guys, and I'm assuming McCann's going to be off this team. And you know what, Jonathan? To be honest with you, I don't think either team's going to make the World Series. And there's no way. Look, I'm not one of those guys, and I think you guys know me long enough. I'm not one of those guys to ever look ahead or say, the Mets are going to make the World Series. I'm not that type of person. I never was. I never will be. And I was even the guy last year, and even though Brave fans wanted to kill me, I was the one that kept on saying when the Mets were 10 games up, guys, it's not over. It's not over yet. It's great what's happening right now, but you also have a team that just won the World Series. You got to be careful. And I was that guy. Of course, I'm going to be excited as a fan. Jeff Strohs, thank you, buddy. I mean, it's unfortunate. But listen, guys, I don't like to predict things into the future like that. Now it's at 43. That's right. Senga. Oh, Jesus Christ. So the Mets got to make a couple of moves here. That's for sure. Well, Robert, look, the Mets have 4 catches on the 40-man right now. So clearly one of them is going. I'm assuming McCann's going to go. The Mets have to make a decision on Alvarez here, right? Are they going to leave him up in the big leagues, or are they going to give him a little bit more tuning in the minors, which I wouldn't be against, considering that we did get out bat now and we can make a lot more things. You can have a lot more things going on with the lineup. So if you really want Alvarez to really come into form, put him in the minors and let him catch the hell out of everything in the minors and let him become a better defensive catcher, right? I think Beatty, look, I said this. I always said I think Beatty's going to be the better overall ball player than Alvarez, and I'm sticking with that. I think Beatty's a stud, and I think he's going. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but he's going to be pretty damn good. Listen, you bet me 275, 20 plus home runs, 80 RBIs, I'll take it. Right? That's exactly what the Mets have not had in a long time. And there was people in the beginning of the offseason that said to me that, why do you have the Mets sign in all these free agents? And remember, this is my predictions, that sign in all these free agents and you must be crazy. It's because you're a biased Met fan. And then I really wanted to really get at him. You know, I calmed it down a little bit, but I went after him. I said this: hey, listen, pay attention, because you're clearly not, right? The Mets lost 4/5 of their rotation because they're going to free agency. The Mets lost half their bullpen, and on top of that, lost their starting center fielder. So they lost, in total, the most important people on their teams, about 7 free agents. That, how else are the Mets going to replace those players? Well, you can't just make all trades because you're still not going to have enough players. Well, guess what? You have to sign players. And even if the Mets didn't go get Correa and they signed, Michael Conforto for a 1-year, $10 million deal, and, and then they sign another reliever for another $10 million, right? The Mets would have still have to spend the most money out of everybody just to replace the players that were currently free agents and that they lost. It's not that hard to figure out. Like, I know people are going crazy about the money, but look at the amount of the free agents. This is unprecedented. How many times in baseball, in an offseason, that one team has so many key free agents? They basically had 2 starters in their rotation. Well, technically 1. Scherzer was the only one. Everybody else was free agents, right? Bassett, Walker, Carrasco, right? All those guys were free agents. DeGrom, right? It's not rocket science here, guys. Like, it's common sense. No matter if the Mets just brought everybody back that they had last year, they were still probably spending $500 million because that's how much it was going to take. If anybody hasn't been paying attention, every single player has been overpaid this year. And you know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. Jimmy. Yeah. Well, you know what, though? Listen, I was wrong on the shortstops going to different places. Again, I had Correa going to the Phillies, and I had Turner going to the Mets. Well, they both ended up in the NL East anyway. But you know what? I predicted, I think, 5 out of the top 20 free agents going to the Mets. Well, if you really think about it, that's kind of the case. If you're in New York, I put up somebody put up the picture on the group chat I'm in. That looks like this, right? This was October 25th, 2022. Now, this is just around, right around playoff time, right? All Yankees in Yankee uniforms: Correa, Verlander, Diaz, and Judge. Oops. Yeah, that didn't happen. So the New York Post should be shut down for that stupidity, right? They've done this before with DeGrom and Scherzer. I'm sorry, DeGrom and Syndergaard about 2 years ago. Like, whatever. And listen, Plaxi does. Well, yeah, he can call games, but at the end of the day, the only pitcher that wanted to pitch with him behind the plate was Chris Bassett. DeGrom, Walker, Carrasco, all those guys wanted to pitch to Nito. So you can't have 3/5 of your rotation pitching to your backup catcher. It doesn't make sense, especially when you're paying the guy, $40 million over 4 years. James McCann, and this is the problem with the Mets in the Mets situation now, since they're over the 40-man roster limit at the moment, is that if they trade James McCann, they're going to have to pay that money and probably get nothing back. Yeah, you might get a lower level prospect and throw him in there. You got to get somebody back that's not going to be on the 40-man. So, yeah, that's what I think. And Justin, I 100% agree. I've been going on about Kevin Parada since the Mets drafted him. Alvarez, I always felt, look, is his bat going to translate? Probably. But again, if he's going to be a catcher that we're not sure how good he's going to be defensively, to take that risk is not worth it. And it's important to everybody to understand that it's not about the money that is spent. Why Met fans look, nobody can say that the Mets didn't spend the money properly, right? Like, there's a lot of Yankee fans. They were going, oh, you got a 40-year-old Verlander. What are you talking about? You were the same Yankee fans going on WFAN, bitching and moaning why the Mets aren't going to get Verlander. And I'm sorry, but the 6 years with Rodon is just as much of a risk than a short-term 2-year deal with Verlander, right? Verlander is obviously older, but let's be honest. 6 years with an injury-prone pitcher is a lot riskier than 2 years with an older pitcher that only basically had Tommy John surgery. So, I mean, the Mets signings are not just spending money recklessly. These are all signings. Listen, we all Mets needed a bat, specifically a right-handed bat. Not only that, you get one of the better shortstops in the game and one of the most clutch hitters in postseason baseball over the last 10 years. Like, that's not something to, that's not reckless spending. Because the market says that everybody's getting overpaid, you have to overpay for these players. It's just unfortunate. You know what? Yes, a lot of these deals are 10, 11, 12 years, but they're stretching it out to have the AAV smaller for specific years, so the payroll can be a little bit lower, so you got some flexibility. Yes, I know the Mets have a crazy payroll, but there still needs to be flexibility, especially at the trade deadline if the Mets need something. And when people talk about the Mets spending money, right, these short-term deals that they have with the starting pitchers and everything like that, just pay attention. After the 2024 season, the New York Mets is going to have $154 million wiped off the payroll after the 2024 season. It might be a little different based on arbitration, but it's around that mark. After this year, 2023, there's about, it really depends, around $80 to $100 million, depending on what that is, or what the arbitrations are and all the other numbers. There's a lot of guys that are coming off the books. Escobar, Canna, the Carrasco. There's a couple other guys that I was trying to figure out. Drawing a blank. But there was a couple other guys that it rounds up to around $80 million, and depending on other situations, it could reach up to $100 million. So the Mets are going to have money coming. Oh, Cano, excuse me. Cano's money's coming off the book. So it's going to be close to $100 million in payroll that's coming off the books. And then even more the following year, which is the same time Ohtani becomes a free agent. And that's something that, this is not reckless spending when that much money is coming off the payroll, and we all know the Mets are going to go hard after Ohtani. It's very simple. Robert, the AJ Pollock's not an option anymore. Again, I think at this point now, it's probably possible that the Mets bring back Michael Conforto, only because the Mets don't need another right-handed bat now. They got Correa, right? So Trey Mancini is out. Adam Duvall is probably out. And so I'm thinking Conforto makes sense now because it adds another lefty. And depending on what the Mets are going to do with Beatty, are they going to, I don't know, put him in left field? Are they gonna? You know, you got to remember, guys. Marte's in right field, and I think the Mets want to keep Marte as healthy as possible. So that's why Conforto could be an interesting option when it comes to right field as well. That's why I'm thinking that's a real possibility. And we heard, I said it yesterday on the video. If you haven't checked it out, MLB Mets Hot Stove of premiere yesterday video yesterday. Check it out. I talked about Conforto and why it makes sense for the Mets. And two, who are the favorites? The Mets and the Blue Jays seem like they're the favorites at this point. With the Blue Jays, he's probably going to start. But again, I don't know if when you're comfortable in a situation, and I think Michael Conforto was very comfortable in New York, and he had a bad contract year, but again, that can happen to the best of them. I still think he's comfortable in New York, and I don't think he's going to go to the Yankees, but the Yankees need an outfielder. So that's a possibility, but we haven't heard anything with the Yankees. You know, the Yankees were more concerned about giving the captaincy to Judge, and Derek Jeter had to be at the press conference, right? That's what it was. Evan Robertson. Correa is going to have a blown out back week 6. Oh, congratulations. You're either a Yankees fan or probably another fan that hates Correa, right? You're probably a Yankees fan. You know, the same Yankee fans that signed Carlos Rodon, who has been injured every year of his career except for last year. Great stuff, but is injured every year of his career. So again, you can talk about every player getting hurt, right? Aaron Judge has been injury prone throughout his career as well, right? I don't care if he got hit by a ball, right? The ball hit him, he broke something. And listen, it's nearly, I don't care what anybody says about paper. And you do get dummies like, wait, let me get his name again, because you got Evan Robertson, who comes on the channel and is probably the same fan that was praying to whatever God you pray for to get Carlos Correa for your team, right? Yankee fans were all over WFN. You can't hide now, Yankee fans. Don't hide now. David, I know we talked. David, what did I tell you yesterday? Wasn't I right? Wasn't I right about Correa? I was 100% correct. Again, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But when it comes down to it, these were the same Yankee fans that were all over WFAN saying, oh, the Yankees got to get Correa. You can put him at third base. Get rid of Donaldson's contract. That's what they were saying on WFAN. So don't hide now and saying you didn't want Correa because you did. I'm sorry. It's completely irrational as a Yankee fan. And I talked about this with my coworkers who are Yankee fans because they were very quiet because they knew they wanted Correa, and don't act like they didn't, because they're going to rely on either Peraza or Volpe at shortstop to start it off, and you still have Donaldson as your starting third baseman. All right, don't act like they did it, because all of a sudden he got a bad back. He hasn't been out on a bad back since 2019. It's a couple of years ago now. All right. You know, yeah, he's hit the IL every now and then, but you know what? Most players hit the IL every now and then, right? And listen, I don't know look, can it blow up in our faces? Absolutely. But not taking a chance is even worse, in my opinion. And Plexi, listen, I know Mets fans like to say that. Again, I'm not one of those guys that are going to say, oh, Mets are taking over New York. No. You will never find me saying that. Listen, until the Mets have to win a World Series before the Yankees do. If they do that, now we can have a little bit of a conversation. Look, I don't care about 27 championships. Those mean absolutely nothing to me because at the time when the Yankees won 20 of them, there was about 7 teams in the league. Okay, so let's calm down there. All right, so there is no reason. Well, no, it's not true, Prax. Yeah, I'm not one of those Mets fans that are irrational with that stuff. You know, does every fan have a biased Mets perspective? Of course. I'll be lying to say I don't. Morning Beer, what's up, buddy? How about that? How about that, baby? How about that? You know, I don't see taking over anything until you win. All right, especially when you have, like the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs. It was laughable because nobody won a World Series until the White Sox did, and they won it before the Cubs, and they basically they ran the town for like about 6 weeks after that, and then it's the Cubs all over again. Nobody cares about the South Side of Chicago. Okay, let's be honest. All right, and you can't listen. The Yankees, when you go to any country in the world, you'll find a Yankee hat. Just because the brand is known, it's an iconic franchise. It's one of the longest running franchise, other with the Phillies and stuff like that. But you don't see all around the country people wearing Phillies hat. You know why? Because the Yankees win. And as much as we don't like that, yes, they haven't won lately, but they've won a lot in their history. And people grown up knowing that. And that's the difference. Listen, if it wasn't for the Yankees dynasty in the late 90s, early 2000s, who knows what the talk of the town would be, right? Because the Yankees weren't always the greatest team in the world, right? The Mets took over the town in the 80s. You know why? Because they won. And the Yankees didn't. Yankees weren't a bad team. They were an okay team. But the Mets won. That's why the team was crazy. And that's the whole situation with that. Again, fan bases that don't have to, like the Dodgers do not care about the Angels. Okay, that's a huge difference. But you know what? When the Angels won the World Series, I guarantee you found a hell of a lot of Angels hats all around LA, and you probably can't find an Angel hat. Now you'll find a Dodger hat everywhere, right? That's how it goes, right? When the Mets made the World Series in 2015, it was absolutely crazy in the city. And there was Mets hats everywhere. And you don't see that on a daily basis. You don't. So, things go crazy when you see Mets hats everywhere when you usually would just see Yankee hats on an everyday basis. Right? And you can pick out fake fans of a team right away. Because all you got to do is break down the game and they're in trouble. All right? Steven, go Braves. Sean Murphy, yay. Sorry, I had to do that. I'm sorry. But listen, look, there's nobody. You're not gonna catch me saying the Braves are a worse team or a bad team or the Phillies are. No. This is not happening, right? Look, the Phillies made the World Series, but let's not act like they don't have work to do. Jonathan, who's a Phillies fan, can tell you. I mean, it seems like the Mets are the only ones getting bullpen arms, right? They need bullpen help. I don't care how good your lineup is. You could score 7 runs. If you give up 8, you're going to lose. You know what I'm saying? And, well, Steven, you're not set. And, yeah, Grissom might be a good player, but he has to become Swanson to be better. You see, that's the problem with Brave fans. Brave fans killed me last year when they were bringing up stats with Olsen over Freeman, but Freeman was the linchpin in that in that Braves clubhouse. And Swanson was the same thing. That is a huge loss. I mean, Brave fans, do you remember not just that the Braves beat the Mets in that 3-game series in Atlanta? Do you remember how you guys won that series? Look at Swanson's numbers. He batted over 300. He had a couple of home runs, and he had the most RBIs in that series. So losing Swanson, your leadoff hitter, by the way. Yes, I know Harris can fit in that leadoff spot perfectly fine. But you just lost a future Hall of Famer in Freeman, who was the leader of your team. And now you lost Swanson, who was the co facto leader of the team last year. Because last time I checked, Acuna is not going to be running and being a leader of that team because he's never going to be that. Albies is one of my favorite players. Maybe he can be that guy. But let's be honest, guys. The Braves, Olsen, I'm sorry, guys. Olsen, again, you keep on going with the stats. All right. The Braves are still one of the highest strikeouts teams in baseball. That's not changing. You didn't get. Now, Sean Murphy, more of a contact guy. Absolutely. But he basically has similar numbers than Travis d'Arnaud, and Travis d'Arnaud has been better. So now you're sitting d'Arnaud to replace him with Sean Murphy, who has similar offensive numbers. Probably, he's definitely a better defensive catcher, but it's just that simple. And I understand. Listen, Brave fans look, you got the championship, so that's not changing. And I never was here disrespecting the Brave fans, but when you don't look at it, no, Steven, it's not about being berserk. It's just the fact that you just automatically assume that losing Swanson is not going to make a difference when last year it absolutely destroyed you. Why the Phillies, why the Braves didn't go further? I'm sorry. Now, I'm not going to go say that. I'm not going to go as far as the Braves, as Juan just did. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. That the Braves got worse. I can't necessarily say that because we don't know what Grissom's going to be. Yes, he can be a stud, but he was also, you're also replacing Grissom with one of the guys who was one of the big part of your lineup and big part of your team. That's not something to just walk off. And this is typical Brave fans, right? You know what? Mets fans did this with Wheeler a couple of years ago. There was a couple of Mets fans included that said, "Oh, we don't need Wheeler." Yeah, we did. I'm sorry. You keep on, sooner or later, the Braves are going to bring up these young kids and continue to use them, and they actually might not pan out. Brave fans got extremely lucky that Acuna worked out and Riley worked out, which, let's be honest, Brave fans couldn't wait to get rid of him 2 years ago, right? Remember that, right? Riley was a bust in his first couple of years. All of a sudden, he figured it out, and now you love him, right? Sooner or later, these guys like Grissom, let's see how Harris comes back next year when there's a book on him. And pitchers know how to pitch to him. Can he stay to that level he was? Or is he going to get worse when there's a book on him now? The same thing goes for Grissom. Grissom might be great, but you can't just say, "Oh, we're going to plug in Grissom. He's going to be better than Swanson." There's no facts in that. So bring the facts. Well, Steven, I understand that. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be a good team, or you are a good team. You're going to be better than you were. Like that's almost impossible. Again, I'm not telling you right here as a Mets fan that the Mets are going to win 112 games. That's stupid. And it's not. Listen, at the end of the day, as good as the quote unquote Braves were, we had the same wins as the Braves. No, you didn't say that, Steven. Somebody else did. I was just bringing it up because Grissom seems like the guy that they might use at shortstop. That's been, the news that's been running around. Again, I think you should just get a veteran, to be honest. But again, the Braves go with their young guys. And listen, it hasn't hurt them yet, but that doesn't mean it's not. And, for all the Brave fans that want to say, "Let's go Braves," I mean, the Braves might trade Max Fried. Like, why are you trading your ace? Oh, because he sucks in the playoffs? Yeah, he has. I mean, he hasn't been good in the playoffs for the Braves. I mean, God forbid it, if it wasn't for certain pitchers. I mean, geez, if Morton wasn't on that Braves rotation, you probably would have won the 2021 World Series, right? Spencer Strider, got hurt at the end of the year. He finally pitched a lot of innings, and he broke down at the end of the year, and it hurt him. And then he didn't pitch well in the playoffs, probably because he came back probably too early to injury, but he stepped up, tried to step up for his team. Well, yeah, Ian Anderson, but Charlie Morton was better than Max Fried? Definitely. Yeah, Steven, you're not watching? Come on, guys. Come on. Like, I kill my Mets every step of the way. Like, honestly. Well, Jonathan, it was a mistake, but that was the old owners that will not be named again, that didn't want to sign Wheeler. So that's on them. Well, Steven, you're on my channel. You're embarrassing yourself. Like, I don't see anybody coming at your rescue, and there's a Philly fan here. Like, seriously, it's not embarrassing. Let's be honest. Max Fried has close to a 4 ERA. Let's be honest, in the playoffs. All right, let's be honest about that. Now, we're still not saying that the Braves are going to be bad, but a lot of us are not saying that, you lost Freeman and Swanson, and you just assume that you're going to be as good as you were in previous years. That's not even fair to the Braves. As Brave fans, you shouldn't necessarily think that. That's not fair, right? And, Fried is really good during the season, but he has his moments where he can't get anybody out, and he walks the ballpark. Again, I even said this when his stream started. There's no guarantee that the Mets, it can blow up in their faces with the old rotation and with. Oh, David, you're a Yankees fan. I mean, come on. You would want probably clamoring for Correa. Come on. See, there's another one. It makes no sense. Stop. You are the same fans that were rubbing one out for Correa. Come on. Stop. You got to listen. Correa could hurt his back tomorrow. But you know what? Judge can actually get hurt tomorrow too and miss 100 games. Right? He can too. Listen, you're a Yankees fan. You signed Aaron Judge to a crazy contract, which you had to. I gave you credit for that. I know Yankee fans don't think I did, but I did. I gave him a lot of credit for that. But you also signed. Look, I'll put it this way. Would Carlos Rodon get hurt before Carlos Correa gets hurt? Because that's Rodon's track record. But I know what Correa has done and what Rodon has not. Rodon barely pitched in the playoffs. Now he's coming to New York in a team that always makes the playoffs. Let's see what he does. Again, he has great stuff. That's it. But that doesn't mean he's going to stay healthy. All right, David. Yeah, I mean, you can. That's fine. Nobody's saying the Yankees are a bad team. But let's be honest. Check the stats. Check the back to the baseball cards. Everybody in the first half played well above their stats on the back of the baseball cards. The second half, they went right back to where they were in the back of the baseball cards stats-wise, except for Aaron Judge. So you need Aaron Judge with basically the same lineup to hit another 60 home runs because Rodon is good, but it's not going to make the difference when the same Yankee team that couldn't score signs a pitcher in the offseason. You're going to tell me you couldn't use Correa? I mean, enjoy Donaldson. At the moment, Hicks is your left fielder. I mean, come on. That's stupid. I mean, come on. Like I said, at the end of the day, there is no doubt. And let's be honest. Look at the AL East and look at the American League as a whole. Sorry, but the American League as a whole was absolutely garbage last year. Like, if the Yankees didn't make the ALCS, it would have been a disaster. Yankee fans would have been jumping off the GW. I'm sorry. It's unfortunate. So the Yankees don't want Correa all of a sudden because they all did. They didn't want Correa, who is one of the better hitters and clutch performers in the playoffs in his career. What was the Yankees' problems? Because it wasn't pitching. Judge hit like 110. I mean, your best hitter was Bader. I mean, come on. Let's see. MB, thank you. Yeah, Profar. I don't know if Profar's going to be on. I mean, he can play a lot of positions, so that's interesting. I'm sorry. There's no fan base. It's okay. I'm not going to ignore him because you guys know I do not ignore people on this channel. As long as you don't say racist shit or sexist shit, you're on my channel. Because I'm not afraid to come back at you guys because especially, listen, I'm the first one to be on this. I'm the first one to come on if I'm wrong and admit that I'm wrong. They don't. Until you do, you're going to get lambasted all over this channel. Not just by me. And it's okay. Again, you can have pride in your team, but also be realistic. I never said once the Mets are going to be the best team in baseball. I never said they were going to win the World Series. I never said they're going to win 100-plus games. Again, you could be a Yankees fan and still be realistic about your team. Your team did not get better yet. Could they still get? There's still an offseason to go. I would be shocked if they trade for Brian Reynolds, but it is Brian Cashman. But Brian Cashman has been known to hug his prospects more than any other team. So we'll see. And it's okay. And I appreciate that you love your team. No doubt. And Again, Robert, you're still going on about the shortstop situation. Trey Turner played second base for the Dodgers before Seager, when Seager was still the shortstop. So what does that mean? I'm sorry. If you're a shortstop, you can probably play second and third with your eyes closed. All right? When you got the hands and the range to play shortstop, you can play either of those positions probably pretty damn well. David, you're lying to the Yankee fans. You were probably calling up WFA. I want Correa. We got to get rid of Donaldson. I mean, you guys were crying that you weren't going to sign Aaron Judge. If it wasn't for Aaron Judge feeling sorry for you guys, he would have been gone. He would have actually been with the Giants. Like, stop acting like the Yankees spent more money to get Aaron Judge when they didn't. Right? Hal had to go on his hands and knees and kiss Judge's feet to come back to the Yankees for the same number the Giants gave him. Come on. Oh, Yankee fans are so cute. Because I'm telling you guys, if the Yankees did... Listen, the back pages of the New York Post in October of this year had Judge, Correa, Verlander, and Diaz in Yankee uniforms. If that would have happened, Yankee fans would have been like, oh my God, the evil empire is back. They're not the evil empire. You know what they are? They're a fan base that still lives on 27 world championships. Because I hear it at work. That's it. You wanted Correa just as much as any other fan base would have wanted Correa. The Giant fans wanted Correa. You know what? Before the Turner to the Phillies would have been happy with Correa. It's not that the Yankees suck. It's just that be realistic. I destroyed the Mets last year. I destroyed the Mets in 2021 when Met fans were too damn positive. I'm sorry. But when you got A-Rod, did you guys complain about A-Rod? No, because it was a Yankee. The steroid-using prima donna who should have been playing shortstop over Jeter went to third base. Did anybody talk about that? No. What about Teixeira? What about Sabathia? What about Garrett Cole? Come on. Nobody's crying. You're crying, David. Again, there's a ton of Yankee channels. Please go on them. You know, listen, did you watch the press conference today? Judge gets his C. Congratulations. What does that get you? It's not a freaking ring. Because last time I checked, the Astros won the World Series. And I'm gonna say this right now. The New York Yankees won't win the AL East next year. You know why? Because the Blue Jays are going to finally play to their capabilities and be better. Yes, Paul, I am. And they can gladly go over there. And they got good content. You know, people think that I don't respect other teams, but I do. But when you're stupidly unrealistic about your team, you're not going to get away with it on this channel. Go to another Mets channel. Go to another Yankees channel who deals with your nonsense. Because any team, if the Yankees would have signed Correa, Yankee fans would have been lining up to get their jersey and put him at third base. And oh my God, look how great it is. The evil empire. Oh, Carlos Correa in that lineup with Judge. Come on. Until you actually be realistic, again, I'm the first person to kill my team. If you don't kill your team as a fan of that team, then you're probably not a real fan of that team. Because if you can't criticize your team and be critical of them, then how can you actually support your team? Because the best fans deal with the nonsense of their team in the bad years. And great for Yankee fans, they don't have to deal with seasons where they don't make the playoffs. David, they might, but you act like I didn't say that. But you also have Rodon, who's your number 2 starter, that can easily break down probably quicker than Scherzer and Verlander. And Rodon, who in his career has a 4 ERA, except for the last 2 years, all of a sudden is a great addition to the rotation. He's got to stay healthy for that to happen. And as I said, things can crumble quickly with the Mets if things don't work out with injuries. I said that. But let's not act like the Yankees, who are one of the older team in baseball as well, by the way, aren't going to get injured as well, right? Last year, you guys got injured, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. You used that excuse as to why you didn't beat the Astros, right? I know Cole had the sniffles, so he couldn't pitch well against the Astros. Oh, Severino, just coming back from his injury, no. Oh, they didn't have Benintendi because that was going to win you at least one game against the Astros. Come on. Like, do you know why the Phillies played extremely well in the playoffs? Because they upped their game, unlike the Yankees, who barely beat the Cleveland Guardians in 5 games in the ALDS. I should be never giving credit to the Phillies, ever, because I'm a Mets fan. That's unheard of. You're not supposed to. But give credit where credit is due. It's just pointless to not give credit to a team. It's stupid. I hate the Phillies, but it was an amazing run last year what they did. Every one of those guys upped their game. Yeah, did it end the way Philly fans wanted it? No. But you can be proud of your team. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, I know, John. That was kind of funny. Hey, listen. He's a who knows what he's going to be, right? Again, at the end of the day, the Braves, the Phillies, and the Mets are probably better than the Yankees by far. Like, it's probably not even close, especially talent. Like, it's Aaron Judge and a bunch of misfits. Like, that's basically what it is. So, all right, guys. So, let's just get back to it. I will be doing a Mets Hot Stove Live later tonight at 6 o'clock. So, I'll be running this live for a couple more minutes. But let's be honest. Even Dodger fans are being Brave fans now because they know they're probably not going to win a division anymore either. All right, so it's interesting now that the Mets, again, because pending physical, quote unquote, let's put that out there. The agreement with 12 years, $350 million for Correa is agreed upon. I'm assuming the physical is going to be fine. The doctors cleared Correa. The Giants executives didn't like what they saw, which who knew they were doctors. It's going to be very interesting because the Mets just got a third baseman for the foreseeable long future when they had a third baseman in Beatty coming up in the ranks that we saw very briefly. And then Mauricio, who became the MVP of the Dominican Winter League, played third base in the Dominican Winter League. So what are they going to do now? Now, Beatty can go to left field. He played that in the minors. But Mauricio really has nowhere to play now. Remember, we were talking about Mauricio at third base, possibly second base. I don't think McNeil's going to be going to second, leaving from second base either. So now, is the Mets going to make a trade? Because they're going to have to trade. But I think they're going to try to work Mauricio out, probably right field. I don't know. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, Mauricio's bat is amazing. He's a very good shortstop, and he probably can play the infield anywhere, second or third. But now getting Correa, now you really have a logjam. What are the Mets going to do? But you know what? It's never a bad idea to have depth in positions because injuries can happen. And we will see. So, again, guys, we will get to everything later on tonight at 6 o'clock for Mets Hot Stove Live. We're going to go over to what else the Mets are going to do in the bullpen. Are they going to trade for Liam Hendricks? Are they still in the market for another bat that can platoon at DH or in the outfield? We'll see. But listen, it's been crazy the last 12 hours. Again, a lot of people were sleeping, and I couldn't even text a lot of people because people were sleeping. I couldn't even text my dad because he was sleeping. He didn't know until like 8 o'clock. Like, I'm going crazy with like 4 Met fans in my job and jump and high five and like, yeah, we got our guy. And, I'm like, damn, that's it. My phone was quiet because it's 2:30 in the morning. But with that said, guys, make sure you tune in to Mets Hot Stove Live later tonight. We're going to go over everything we need to go over, including what the lineup could look like, what else the Mets can do, everything else. So thank you guys for tuning in for the last hour or so. I appreciate it. Again, the Mets agree to terms. with Carlos Correa after the failed physical, I guess you can say, from the Giants for Carlos Correa. And he'll be playing third base for the New York Mets rather soon. And hopefully the press conference comes soon. I don't know if it's going to be before Christmas. That would be very quick, but you never know. We'll see. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in. Mets get the bat they were looking for. We'll see what happens, everybody. See you later tonight. As always, let's go Mets. See you tonight, guys. Carlos Correa to the Mets. Peace out, guys.
You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your